This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 852, Zook Down Under. Enjoy. Starting off, of course, capes. The spiritual upgrade to the capes from the fire cape and the kiln. These are rewarded from a flawless normal run and will upgrade the accompanying kiln cape. They'll give 57 armor, a plus 43 combat boost to either strength, magic, or range, depending on the class, and a plus 2 prayer boost. And they also boost some ultimate abilities for each combat style to the point where the melee one boosts overpower to cost 60% adrenaline instead of 100. The ranged one does the same for dead shot and causes it to deal 42 to 210% of initial damage plus 70% ability damage every 1.2 seconds or 2 ticks for the next 8.4 seconds. And the magic cape does the same for omnipower and causes it to hit 4 times with each hit dealing 80 to 100% ability damage. And the PVM folks in our Discord are pretty much all over these, but the emphasis seems to be towards the magic one. And TzekHaar says that all of these changes effectively amount to 600% ability damage or so for 60% adrenaline in each style. So put simply, these capes are something you're going to want to try and get if you have one of the pre-existing kiln capes.
And I wonder if these things, do we know if they're tradable?
No, they're not tradable.
They are not tradable.
These ones are not tradable.
I wonder if... Okay.
Yeah. Now, there's also the Igneous Calzook, which is rewarded for a flawless hard mode run, and it combines the previous 3 capes into one. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be a hybrid cape or an all damage cape. If it's hybrid, that could affect where it's used and make it not best in slot, because hybrid does impose an armor penalty on that, so that's something that we're waiting to hear about. But nonetheless, the 3 individual capes, I think, are something that I will probably be trying to go for. And just based on what these things look like, I just have to say that they look wonderful in terms of just how they're approaching cape design on this and just the colors that they radiate.
Well, there's quite a legacy to live up to with that, right?
Yeah.
And my guess is they're going to go with an all type, because then it wouldn't have any reductions.
Yeah, I hope so. In all honesty, because at that point, if it's a hybrid, you're better off just using this one that's specifically tailored to that style, unless you're specifically trying to hybrid. So
but that just wouldn't make any sense.
No, it wouldn't. But we just have to cover all our bases here. As for the Magma Tempest ability, it ignites a 5x5 grid of fire, requires a magic staff, lasts for 9.6 seconds, and hits 8 times for 5 to 25% ability damage. It can critically hit, which means it doesn't need a designated primary target, and that might create some interesting side effects with the Fractured Staff of Armadyl, because that deals extra damage when it crits. We're going to keep that in our back pocket as well for people who might have a tier 95 staff. We have a Scripture of Full that deals 20% more damage, but you take 10% more damage for 15 seconds after activating it. You do have a 15-second lockout with this. That means it likely can't refresh while it's active, and what this means at the whole is an average of 120% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This one is probably going to be easily comparable to the Wen Scripture, depending where they both fall, but they're all going to be fairly competitive with this. Okay, now I have some reading to do, because we are getting our first tier 95 two-handed sword with this. It comes in 3 parts from hard mode, and it's got a special attack called Igneous Cleave that only costs 50 adrenaline to fire off. It will deal 62 to 190% ability damage, plus 6 hits for 30 to 105% ability damage, which averages out to 67.5. That increases by 5% for each hit over the next 14.4 seconds. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. It can be extended by up to 5 hits with burns or bleeds. It can also interact with the Masterwork Spear of Annihilation that has its passive that increases bleed duration by 50%. So in theory, what you're looking at with this is that somebody could put this new sword, which I'm going to try and say the name of, but I'll probably butcher, which is the EK-ZEKKIL in an essence of finality to use its special, though that would be a huge cost, obviously, for the PVMers involved, which means most PVMers out there who want the best and greatest gear are probably going to be hunting down 2 of these swords. Or you could use some tick trickery to stall attacks, but we're not going to necessarily talk about that because that's high levels of PVM that we're not here for this week. But what this means at the end of the day, put simply, is that without your Masterwork Spear and using this as an essence of finality attack or the poison, this special attack should do about 1,085% ability damage. Add poison, that goes up to 1,181. Add your spear, it becomes 1,455. And add poison on top of that, 1,575%. 15 times normal damage with this special attack. And this is based on some number crunching that Taxi did. This has a 60-second cooldown. Takes 26 seconds with no spear to get this damage out, or 35 seconds with the spear. And since they're bleeds, they'll be unaffected by Berserk. But that's a 60-second cooldown for only 50% adrenaline. This has the power to really change Melee, I feel, on this. And the discussions that we're having today was that it's going to make it competitive in terms of that. And we'll have to, of course, once they get their hands on these, we'll come back at the end of the year for that this year in PVM meta changes that we've been talking about. But oh boy, this is a big deal.
The tradable?
Yes, the pieces will be tradable.
But you can only get them from hard mode, huh?
Correct.
So what do you even get from regular mode? Just the cape?
The capes and the scripture.
Alright.
Yeah. But, of course, there's also going to be the Anima of Full that will allow you to get the final upgrade for the Pontifex Ring. And once fully upgraded, the ring will be able to be overpowered, which grants access to all of its previous buffs without being equipped. So that means you can have it not stun yourself at Carapac, and you can go back to using your Ring of Death or any of the rings that came from the Rex Matriarchs. It means for the Glacier, you'll have that extra protection percentage with your prayers. Crosis, less stat debuffs, and we don't know what the obvious effect will be in the TzekHaar front. And one final thing with this, there will also be a new item called Pernix's Quiver, which is made by receiving Quiver fragments if you have the top-tier Pontifex Ring. And with 100 fragments, you can craft this Quiver that allows access to 2 ammo slots that can be swapped through the ability menu. And it also increases ranged max attacks by 4% when fighting targets below 25% HP, and will be tradable when crafted. So I guess this is the other thing that you have, Tannis. You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.